Have you been scared off from buying a house because rates have been frighteningly high? The Sharp Mortgage team in Winston-Salem can help make it feel far less spooky. There are many programs available now that can keep your mortgage payment from making you want to scream. You will dread it if you don't call for more information today because Halloween is right around the corner. With the Sharp Mortgage team, there are no tricks, and they will treat you and the zombies you love like family.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, we're talking real estate here with our man Blake Ginther from the Ginther Group in Winston-Salem. His information for all of your real estate needs is in the show notes. We'll give him a chance to plug all of that here at the end of the episode. This is a fall episode, right in the thick of fall, mid-October. It's pumpkin season. It's pumpkin patch season. But for Blake, it's vest season, is it not?
It is. It is vest season. I am flexing my vests.
We were having I don't want to call it, I think fascinating is probably a stretch, but we were having a conversation about the age line of demarcation for when you should or should not wear sweater vests. Yeah. Not sweater vests. Sorry, not a sweater vest, but these could be like the puffy vests.
These are the puff vests. And I could be wrong. But I told Adam that I thought that mid-30s was kind of the line. If you're younger than that, you're probably too young for a vest. And if you're older than that, I mean, it's time to give in. They're amazing.
Yeah. All right, but before we jump in, Blake, we didn't discuss this beforehand, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I feel like you can navigate this one okay because you were so involved. But this is our first episode since Hurricane Helene hit our friends in the western part of the state. And I know you and the Ginther Group and Keller Williams were very, very active in helping people in those communities. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you guys have done and are continuing to do to support those who have been affected so significantly?
Yeah, man. No, we didn't talk about it, but I didn't need any prep for this because it's obviously it hit so close, right? I mean, this is the first time. So KW Cares gives about 5 to 7, some years, bad years like this year, 8 to 10 million away every hurricane season, basically. For natural disasters, I shouldn't just say it's hurricanes, but it ends up a lot of times being hurricanes. And this is the first time in a long time. It's been several years. The coast, right, got hit. I can't remember the name of the hurricane, but it got hit maybe summer of 19, maybe. And this is the first time physically I've been able to go help as well. And we drove a couple truckloads and trailers up to the Boone KW office, where they had a great setup for getting it to not just KW agents and their clients, but just the community. So I will say, man, it was pretty heartwarming. The North Carolina came together for sure, and South Carolina to help our Western Carolina folks. And KW's stepped up big time. I mean, KW was the first big entity there, giving away hundreds of generators, and cutting down trees and helping people find people, frankly, and get them out of some stuff. So it was pretty, it was tough to see. There was some tough to see stuff, but ultimately heartwarming at the end of the amount of people that help.
Yeah. And the help is still ongoing. And when Blake mentioned things like delivering generators, those are things that are still needed, especially as they're getting to some really cold temperatures up there. So warm items, generators, propane tanks, camping stove, camping fuel, anything to help people that are currently unhoused because their home was destroyed or they still don't have power. There's still a lot of people out in the Asheville area that don't have power. How can they get through these cold months when they don't have electricity and heat? So anyway, thank you, Blake. Thank you to Keller Williams and the Ginther Group for everything that you guys have done and continue to do to support our friends out west. Okay, when we transition now to market update here in the Triad, for those that haven't listened, or maybe they have listened to our previous episode, there's the trends are still similar where we talked about there's just not a lot of need to buy buyers out there. There's some want to buy buyers, but not as many need to buy buyers, and it's slowing down the sales volume. Are we still in a similar place from what we were a month ago?
Yeah, yes, for sure. Still not as many need to buy buyers. Not as many need to sell sellers, but I feel like there are more sellers entering the market than buyers, as has been the trend the last really 3 months or so. We've gone from kind of routinely being in the mid 500s to approaching 900. We're in the mid to upper 800s now in Forsyth County. So, a good bit more inventory. That's still below level market. I just did the months inventory. We're still between 2 or 3 months inventory, which is still technically a seller's market until you get up to 700. So, and then it turns kind of into a buyer's market over 700 in Forsyth County. So, and the one thing I was going to say we should get in, go over was what does that mean if you're a seller? And I've been saying it, but I want to be more clear. It means that you either need to be very aggressive on price or you need to renovate your home.
Yeah. So are you still finding that there are people that are out there that are waiting? They're just waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to turn to go out there and lock in something in terms of buying a home?
Every election cycle, we have the mid-October, I'm going to wait and see, which, I'm not trying to be glib or a smartass about it, but I'm like, what's going to change, right? Regardless. But for half the people, they'll be happy and half the people, they won't. But ultimately, how has it impacted real estate over the last several decades? And that would be like nothing. It hasn't. So, to those people, I just say you don't need to buy right now, or you don't need to sell right now, clearly, or you would. But we are hearing that, I do think that we've been saying it for the last several months, that there's some economic discomfort, right? But I think less today than 2 months ago. I think that we've softened inflation a little bit, and economic indicators at the moment today are better than they were 60 days ago. So, I just think, frankly, it's that seasonality element. Some people they're not moving.
Yeah. So what you're saying is as we record in mid-October, the landscape won't be drastically different in mid-November when the election's over.
I would anticipate like literally no difference.
Yeah. Okay. It tracks with things that we just did an episode recently with Jennifer on the financial side of this, and she said you don't really find a whole lot of drastic changes over the long term based on an election, because what the market doesn't like necessarily is uncertainty. The market doesn't choose sides in terms of Democrat, Republican. Once you get that certainty of having somebody in the White House and who's in control of things federally, then things stabilize.
Yeah, that's well said. Right now, for sure, there is uncertainty, obviously, and in a couple of weeks there won't be.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what matters. Not necessarily when we're talking about just the pure economics of this.
Yep.
All right, so we've had the conversation many times about you got to do the updates. 2-3 years ago, you didn't have to do the updates if you wanted to sell. It would help you maybe to get a better price, but you didn't have to do the updates to sell. Now you got to do the updates. And we're talking basic stuff. But I want to ask you about the other side of this, which is you got to be aggressive on price. So if people are selling because they have priced in a way that makes buyers feel like they're getting a killer deal, what does that look like? What can you elaborate, contextualize that a little bit more for us to say, okay, what does that mean to be aggressive on pricing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a real life example. I mean, there's a house that before the market started softening in August, late July, August, if we had listed, in June, it probably would have sold in the 375 to 385 vicinity, in solid condition, right? Some pieces were updated, some pieces weren't. Great location. Well, that same house today, if it wants to sell in the next, probably in this quarter, right, before the end of the year, it will probably not sell above 350. And people go, whoa, did they just lose $35,000? I mean, they don't have to, right? If they were to go spend $10,000 or $15,000 of cosmetics, it would sell in our current market for 400. But what is most common, right? And people are, if they're listening to this, if they're being honest, everybody falls guilty of this. Everybody does the middle, right? Everybody just gravitates to the middle. And so when I say, you know, get your home in good shape and price accordingly, people go, well, if the range of correctness for my home is 350 to 400, you know, I'll paint a few things and I'll do a few things here and there, and we'll list it at 375. And the middle is failing. That is actually a recipe for failure in our current environment. I would say do nothing, do less and price it at or below 350, and sell it, or do a little more than you want and price it towards the higher element right now, that higher price. But most people do is just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that is not working right now.
Yeah. So I'll take it back to the experience that we had where when we sold a property, you gave us the three options. Say, you can sell it as is, and this is the range. You can do this, and this will be the range. And then you can go, the luxury model of renovation, and this might be your range. And so what you're saying is cut out that middle option.
The middle option is really not a good one right now. That's right. It either do less and price it aggressively, or do more. And you don't have to renovate, like gut your kitchen and gut your, don't get me wrong, that's what they want. But you do need to cosmetically, and I should say, it depends. It depends on the price point. It depends on the market. Buyers, we're back in that environment where we were for a long time, where the average consumer either can't afford to or doesn't want to make updates.
Yeah. It's a lot it's a lot to wrap your head around, to say, wow, I got to spend $10,000 to $15,000 on these updates or these upgrades. And that can, your mental capacity might just stop right there in terms of what you think you can do. But at the end of the day, like you said, it could get you that extra 50,000 in your selling price.
Yeah, or frankly, in our current environment, it will get you sold. and you will make that every bit of that 1 for 1. You might get 2 for 1, you might get 3 for 1. We're not in that market where if you spend $15,000, I can guarantee you're going to make 45,000 more, right? I can't guarantee you a 3 to 1 anymore on that money. I think that what I can guarantee is that it will 1 for 1 bring you a sale, right? So, and then, but it might 2 for 1. You might get a little more than what you put in, but you will get a better number and you will sell for the number that you want, because most of the numbers, when I tell them the lower number, they're like, ooh. And by the way, they all have equity, right? They're all going to make money. Most, if they've owned the home for more than 4 years, they just have grown so accustomed to these higher numbers that when I give them a lower number, like for example, that 350 or below, they're like, oh, no way. And I'm like, okay, well, you literally bought the house for 200 like 6 years ago. So you did get a lot of equity, and they haven't done as much work. So they're still in a really good position, just not quite as good as it was before the market softened. And I want to say one thing: you don't have to spend your own money. You can spend my money, right? I do still offer the renovation program. So you can spend my money, and I will pay for the contractors to do the work, not my contractors, third-party contractors, to do the work and get reimbursed at closing. We still are offering the renovation program. I think people thought we'd stop offering it when our market softened. No, it's actually more relevant now.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
Life is full of celebrations, birthdays, holidays, life milestones, and so much more. And who has been helping generations of families celebrate these events? Our friends at Dewey's Bakery. And even if you aren't planning for something in the near future, you don't have to wait to enjoy something savory and delicious from Dewey's. Maybe you just need something to get you through your Mondays. Drop by every Monday for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary. Just come celebrate the start of a new week. So, if you're hearing this ad on a Monday and you're in your car, reset that GPS and get to one of their 3 Triad locations immediately in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. And any day of the week, you can find the perfect item with fast and easy ordering options at local.deweys.com. Plus, Dewey's does so much to help celebrate our community. To date, they've given back over $4 million to local schools, churches, and other nonprofits. Your next celebration isn't complete without something special from Dewey's Bakery. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
I think I might just title the episode "Spend Blake's Money."
That's cool, man.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
You know, we're not going to get into our personal lives right now, but it feels like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask you if the renovate now, pay later option was still available, and you've answered that it is.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about something that you mentioned before we hit record as a potential topic here today, and I don't know much more about it, so I'm just going to repeat the phrase that you told me, which is the cash calculator part of selling your home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I wanted to touch on it because I think it hasn't slowed down. People are getting texts almost daily. Can I buy your house cash immediately for a beautiful offer, or postcards still, right? It's still, and this isn't probably going away because there's still a lot of equity in play, and those numbers are getting lower, right? So they're making it a better deal, quote unquote, on some of these cash offers. So the cash offer calculator, from a seller's perspective, they often right now, let's stick to the same number, right? Where they go, my home is worth 350 to 400. That same home is going to get a cash offer today, probably in the 3 to 315, 320 range, right? At best. And then that's the initial offer. And then they typically ask you for either videos or pictures or they come out. And then their offer is revised, typically lower. I've never seen it better.
Right.
It's only going to go down. And then what's interesting is most of these cash offers come with a 5% fee. And sometimes they even ask for repairs. So the number ends up being magically that formula in a rising market. People could offer 80%. They shot for 75, but they could offer 80% of value, knowing that the market was going up, knowing that if they bought at 80% and the market's going up, they spend, that they do the $10,000 or $15,000 worth of work, and they're going to make money on this sale, right? Or they'll hold it as a rental, but for the most part, these were flip companies. So we're not in that rising market, right? We're in a level or even slightly softening market, right, at this point. So they are going to be even more conservative with their cash offers. And 75 is the absolute top, and 65 is probably where they're going to end up settling. So, maybe 70%. So
Wow.
it is, and that's what's changed is I think people got 80%, 85%. We know a good friend of ours who got, frankly, at the time, this was way back in like kind of like peak COVID,
Yep.
he got 100%, right? I mean, they paid, I remember just blatantly saying, dude, take that offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That those days are gone.
So then why would somebody entertain this? Just the convenience and and being able to have that off your plate?
We're going to see more and more of this, dude. The 70% of real estate is owned by boomers. And boomers are getting to an age where their family members are having to deal with their real estate.
Yeah.
And some of it's sadder than others, and some of it's harder than others. And they just go take over this property that might have a lot of stuff in it that I don't even want to deal with. Just take it, right? And there's scenarios like that. And to that you go, I get it. I would still say what I would love to do in that scenario is get them multiple offers, right? Is shop it for them. And there might not be a thing for us involved. Like we might make $0 on that and their ability to help them. But that's what we've been doing from some estate situations. And then people are boomers that are calling us to get ahead of it for their family members. Like I meet with one almost every week where we go through their options, right? We talk out their timeline to the retirement village that they're often going to. But I mean, to your point, who takes those cash offers? It's usually people who are in a bad way or don't want this asset that they now have.
Yeah. They've inherited that asset, or they've gotten to it. They've gotten into a bad place where they need cash.
Yeah.
They need cash, and they've got enough equity where they're going to make some cash on it.
I did see a more than usual amount of hoarder houses hit the market, or not hit the market, but come across these cash sales in the last 15 months, 18 months. And I think part of that is just habits that people fell into during COVID, made already kind of hoarder habits become worse. So I did see more of that. And those people, either they or their family members are kind of embarrassed at the house, so they don't really want to hit open market. I'm not judging it at all. I would still say to those people, please shop though. Get minimum 3, preferably 5 offers, and still let realtors see it, because they might have local investors who are willing to pay more.
Where do you shop that kind of thing? I mean, like you said, in most places, in most situations, those places come to you through texts and phone calls and mailers. But how do you shop that kind of thing?
I mean this sincerely. You call your agent. You call your agent, and that doesn't mean, I think people think if I'm calling my real estate agent, they're going to put a sign in the yard. No, not if they're a good agent, their job is to provide you options, right? And putting a sign in the yard might not be the option that works best for you and your family.
Yeah, you can do this in a little more discreet way.
Yep.
Yeah, the generational part of this makes a lot of sense. I mean, anybody who's listening to this that is had to deal with property that a family member, a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent once owned, and now it becomes their responsibility to try to sell it. Yeah, I could see how people might want to find a quick and easy way to do that. I get it. I do.
Totally. And the first time I ended up buying a house in that scenario, I went, wait, but I just told you I'll renovate your house, right? I'll spend my money and you'll make so much more. And he went, I don't want to do that. We just make a cash offer. And I went, I will get you cash offers. And if, and frankly, the cash offers were lower than what I was willing to buy the house. And I went, dude, this is too low. These are too low. I'll buy your house. Right. But I said, but to be clear, I'll also renovate your house for you and you can make the money. And he didn't want it. he wanted to be bought out for a variety of reasons. And I went, okay.
Just wanted it to be over.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I used to judge, like, I used to be like, I don't know, too far the other way. We're like, don't do that. Don't take it. Well, listen, life, maybe that's the right move for you. Maybe you would rather with your time, and you've got enough money, frankly, that you don't want to deal with the headaches or the challenge. I get it. The mindset.
Yeah. But I think what you're trying to get across to people is, even if you're in that scenario where you feel like you have to get out of something quickly, you still have options.
You definitely do. You definitely do. Even in a softer market, you still have options. And, whether you're in the Triad and you want to call us, or you're anywhere else, or you already have an agent, just call them.
So this is a quick editor's note. Blake's computer froze, made a really funny looking face that I almost took a screen picture of when it froze, but he jumped over to his phone so they can continue the podcast. So he continues the answer now.
And I've seen it all, is my point, right? I mean, I've seen some pretty bad houses. I mean, like, name it, I've seen it probably. And I think that I there's a lot of people who are embarrassed, and I just want to go, like, I mean, I get it, but like, agents see everything, right? So there's nothing. It's like going into your doctor's office and being embarrassed of something, right? Like, there's nothing they haven't seen. Same with realtors. We've seen it all. You can find me on the interwebs at theginthergroup.com, theginthergroup.com, or 283-8689, 283-8689. I was like, man, if we were like literally 60 seconds from finishing. Sorry.
Man, you figured it out. You jump back in here. We closed the episode. And just so people understand why your voice sounds a little different now than it did for the previous, 20, 25 minutes of this episode. So, all right, real quick, my man, thank you for plugging your website, your phone number. If people want to get in touch with you or your team, we are releasing this very close to the event. So hopefully if people are listening on Friday, the 18th, maybe you got a chance to take advantage, but tell folks about the big event you guys have on Saturday, the 19th.
High probability you'll see me in a vest at my farm event, my favorite event of the year, where it is for all ages, right? I think adults with no kids, adults of all ages, kids of all ages, animals, corn maze, hay rides, pumpkin patch, just, typical fall foods, all on us. Favorite event, come say hi.
Fall on the Farm is what it's called. It is at Smith Hollow Farm in Kernersville. Blake, we will see you there, my friend.
Looking forward to it, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.